Hello, welcome to the September studio chat.
Hey, Cole.
Hey, Patrick.
It's been a while.
It has. I feel like, was I with Nick last? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Well, and also we had Gen Con, which throws everything off in the busy summer. So we're trying to get like in the normal swing of things.
Normal swing, yeah. And you went to other conferences this summer, or am I dreaming that?
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
Or I went to Origins. Oh, and it was
right.
nice. It was very origin.
It was very cool.
So what have you been playing lately?
I have been playing a bunch of things. I got back into my video game, like my Steam library. I was like, in fact, I almost bought a Steam Deck this summer. Almost, near miss. But I've been playing a game called Dungeons of Hindenburg. Ever heard of it? It is, it's a dungeon crawler. Get this, it's a dungeon crawler.
This is so uncharacteristic. I
so
thought you only played Power Wash simulators.
Well, I played Power simulators. So it's you're this young woman who was a lawyer in the real world, and you go to this town in the Austrian Alps. Is that a correct term? And for some reason, there are dungeons in that town, and it's like a tourism industry for them. And so you are. Every day you can go to a different dungeon or do something vacationing, and your stats are like amusement, relaxation, renown, familiarity. So familiarity is how well you know the area. Renown is how famous you are. And so you can either relax or you can go do a dungeon, and then you can go hang out with one of the townies at night. And it's like a little bit like social simulator, a little bit dungeon crawler.
Do you have is there a Phoenix Wright mode?
No, well, yeah. Yep, there is a little bit. So, and then your relationship with the other town people, like you'd be like, if you talk to this person enough, they'll give you another stamina meter or access to equipment.
I see.
Yeah. So it's kind of fun.
It's in that genre, like the one where you're running. What is that? Like side hustle or something, where you're running a shop, and then you go and then you Moonlighter. That's what that game's called.
Moonlighter. And you actually go loot the stuff. Yeah. So.
What
have you been playing?
Well, I love that genre just because it does the thing of you go into to a dungeon, but there's this other concern that you have to sort through.
The social pressure,
right?
Yeah. And of course, there's something afoot in the town. There's a story. Yeah.
I really thought you were going to tell me that she gets knocked on the head and then wakes up in a dungeon, but no, it's actually just
no. She just goes into one every day.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's great. So. What have I been playing lately? I have been playing Moongate. That's the name of that. Is it called Moon Ring or Moongate? Oh my gosh. I'm screwing this up. Which is an old Ultima clone. That is really wonderful. It's free on Steam right now. If you can find the game's true name, you can just play it, because apparently I don't know it. But it is wonderful, and it is the person who made it worked on Fable, and they just wanted to make a little ode to Ultima 2, Ultima 3, and it's just perfectly in that mode.
Which also got a re-release, right? There's an Ultima remaster?
There's a Wizardry remaster.
Wizardry, yeah, that's it.
Even crustier.
Even crustier.
And then I am debating playing Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. I've heard it's long, and so I've been running into this problem where I only get 20 hours into a JRPG, or 10, if I'm being real honest. My friends here on camera about how far I'm getting, 5 hours maybe, and I just run out of steam.
Right.
But I used to play a lot of JRPGs, and so I'm wondering, is it just because I need to kind of start over and I should pick an easier, more kid-oriented JRPG to play? So thinking about doing Thousand Year Door, but tomorrow UFO 50 comes out, and that's all I'm going to play.
Oh, that looks cool. Yeah, you showed me that. Yeah, you showed us that.
I haven't been as excited for a game in a long time because it's designed by a bunch of folks, including Derek Yu, did Splunky, but also John Perry, who's low-key one of the best board game designers. He did Land, Air, and Sea. And also Time Barons, which is as good or better than Land, Air, and Sea. That's my hot take.
Time Barons?
Yeah, I'll bring it in. I think it's kind of hard to find right now, but it is a very weird, dueling game. But it's wonderful.
Let's applaud them for not calling it Time.
Yes, thank goodness. Because that's when we republish it someday.
That'll be
what we do. It's been end of summer. The kids are getting ready to go to school. They are going to school now, so I'm still trying to figure out can I play video games in the fall?
Will this happen? Yeah. We got 2 kittens, so that's
that's 3 kids going to school.
And the kids.
It's 2 kittens.
So it's busy at our house right now.
And then we've been playing. In the world of board games, we've been playing the old Lord of the Rings game from the year 2000.
Yeah.
Which I'm really charmed by.
Yeah. I really like that game.
Yeah.
I'm happy you're back into it. I've been playing Deep Rock Galactic.
The board game.
The board game. Yeah. I mean, I haven't played the game, but for board games, I played Harmonies. I picked up Harmonies recently, and I'm trying to remember what I've been playing. Spirit Island tapered off a little bit, so that hasn't been.
That was going to happen at some point.
At some point, yeah. I joined a group that plays it on TTS on the weekend, and so I have the opportunity to play it when I want to, and that actually kind of diminished it, interestingly enough. So
I feel like I go through these phases. We started doing 18xx games in the studio, which we're going to do for the next few weeks, and I am like, I love 18xx games, but I will stop playing them for like a year.
Yeah.
And then for 6 months.
And then I get back into it.
So
cool.
The studio's been busy. I mean, part of the reason we haven't been playing a bunch of big games.
Is there any news in the studio?
Oh my gosh. Okay, there's so much. I am owed. I was telling you earlier today that I promised myself, and kind of no one else, but just myself, that I would write an update for the Oath campaign 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And I've been so busy working on Oath that I haven't had a chance to properly construct this update. So maybe today or tomorrow, when things are a little calm, I'll sit down and write it. But the short version is Oath is in a really good spot. We have been, so right now the game is fully operational. Every single system that we promised for the crowdfunding campaign, and many we didn't even promise, they all work. Mm-hmm. And everything's harmonizing very well. The rulebook has been written. We're starting to take things through graphic design passes. We'll have a lot to share about that probably later this fall. In terms of the amount of content that's been designed, we're about halfway there. Mm-hmm. So all the systems are working, and then we're just filling in the content to actually, build them out. That's probably going to take 2 or 3 months. Mm-hmm. We're doing something different than we've done in a long time, which is we're doing all of this like fundamental design work is happening in person. Mm-hmm. Because Oath was a game that was heavily designed and developed remotely, digitally during COVID. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of like flipping it and saying, okay, most of the Oath testing is happening in the room down the hall, mm-hmm. where tonight we will have a bunch of people playing Oath in person. And then we have dev meetings 2 or 3 times a week upstairs where we're playing our Chronicles. And we're just trying to see how much we can get done in person. Mm-hmm. My hope is that we will be releasing stuff to the testing Discord probably by the end of this month, maybe a little bit after, and then there'll be public kits within a couple months.
Cool.
But it's really coming along.
I should get into a game.
It's almost time.
It's almost time.
It's almost time. Well, so I've been working with Andrea, who's also in customer service, and Alita, who's kind of our general production coordinator and jack of all trades. And then Clay, who's our sales director. And because I have like a little Oath team, I haven't actually needed to draw on other studio resources, which has been, it's been interesting because we work a little bit slower because it's a lot of people's first major project. Not everyone on the team, but a lot. But it's also been nice to have like reliable testing bandwidth where I don't have to worry about them getting pulled in a million directions. So the Oath stuff's going really well. We'll have a crowdfunding campaign with a bunch of new art, or not crowdfunding update with a bunch of new art and some hints about what's coming, hopefully within a week, as soon as I write this thing.
Do you think someone freaked out when we said another crowdfunding campaign?
For Oath? Yeah, we're doubling up. We're just going to keep running. We'll just run the exact same campaign. Do you want to talk about Opus at all?
Yeah, I do. So we are, how technical should I get? So we're in the middle of I would say the 4th major
that feels about right.
Yeah. That's what I read on the board anyways, Opus 4. And we are, with Liz's help. Liz Davidson is our new solo and co-op designer. Mm-hmm. And so there's been a lot of Liz has been like, well, how's the game pushing you? And so that's a very basic conversation about cooperative design. And so I've been kind of refocusing the game about the opposition that the game is producing and kind of refactoring everything isn't equal. The tasks are very in the forefront now, and then everything kind of grows out of those tasks. So we're literally prototyping it today, right now, and I'm hoping to have it on the table by Friday, and so I mean I'm bumming to play it today, but
This iteration has overlapped perfectly with our Oath sprint, so I have no idea what it's going to look like. I feel like you and I haven't had like an Opus check in. I'm really excited to see it. And it's just because like we had a big Arc sprint or Oath sprint to get things ready for testing last week.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of continuing into this week. And so I have no idea what you're going to put on the table. But I feel primed. I mean, now that I've been playing the Lord of the Rings co-op game, it's making me think
about co-op design,
about how co-op design like works and doesn't work.
So now it's focused on the players are contributing cards to tasks, and then when they reach some critical mass, they get evaluated. The way that you participate in the task then is like changing relationships between the players until there's a little web of relationships out on the board that you're forming dynamically during the game. And then while you're doing that, you have to sacrifice your character growing out of flaws or into things that they learned during the game.
Do you want to say anything about like for someone who's never heard about Opus?
Yeah, I would love to. So Opus is about the Opus Corporation, who was given, among other companies, in the alternate history of the game, there was a UFO crash in the 70s. And the parts of it were divided up among various corporations that the U.S. trusted with them. And so the Opus Corporation and a couple others are developing robots based on the circuitry that they used. They found in the alien craft. So the robots are smarter than humans, but they just came out, so they're still learning how to be human. And then the robots themselves are part of a project that the U.S. government has said, can you do this with them? Can you do this with them? Can you do this with them? So in the initial scenario, you're just trying to prove that they can crew a ship to go to the moon and form a colony, and then to go to Mars and form a colony, and then go to Jupiter and form a colony. And so literally, you're just doing things that we take for granted, like taking care of a pet or making dinner or things like that in the game, so that you can prove to the proctors that you're ready to go to, that you wouldn't fight with each other during a 3-year mission.
You can't go to Mars unless you can cook dinner.
Unless you yeah. Alternate history in which there's a crash. Yeah, and I might ditch all that and just put it in the future, but I kind of wanted that orange, blue, and brown, like 70s kind of like color scheme and that sort of cassette punk aesthetic. So that's what I started with it. Yeah,
is cassette punk a thing? That's great. That's
that's a term. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So. So everything, all the programs are stored on tape and things like that. So, but it's interesting because I do talk about the cloud in the design because the relationships are supposed to be forming relationships.
It's a giant tape in the sky.
It's a giant tape in the sky.
Huge tape disc.
So I've been working on that, and I came back from vacation a little bit like about it, but now I'm
that's just the process.
Yeah,
right?
it's the process.
I think if you haven't hated the project you're working on like 3 or 4 times deeply, then you're not really working on it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. And then beyond that, the studio. I mean, we've just been really busy, kind of getting things ready. It's weird, Arcs has been doing really well, and part of Arcs doing well means that we have to keep like thinking about and working about working on Arcs things.
It's been crazy how. So our sales team, which is Clay and Carol, have been talking about how it's been. We were so well prepared for this shipment that like distributors have contacted us and said we haven't seen a plan for a distribution of a new product that's hot go this well. So Opus is doing amazing work right now.
It's hard to like keep something at the appropriate levels of stock through its release, and I think that we've done a really good job here. I was just looking at like box backs today for the 3rd printing, which is so exciting. And, we're always making little improvements to things that we can.
It hasn't any distributors yet.
Right.
We're talking about the 3rd printing right now. It's just I'm like giddy right now. So
and then for folks who pre-ordered it, I saw a few questions about that earlier. Like, when should they expect their?
By the end of the month it'll ship by the end of the month. We are sending. I think the order is going out like this week even to say start the process. So
and it'll take our fulfillment partners usually a little bit to get things underway. But I think we've been telling people throughout the summer that by the end of September they'd ship. And
we're right on schedule. And then and there's been some minor hiccups here and there, but we have the stock for the pre-orders, so those are all set to go up. So so we're all set.
Cool.
And then for other studio news, I forgot to mention this during our briefing. We did create a business development process And so people can now start submitting their novel idea or their game idea or whatever to us. No game submissions though.
Yes.
Yes, that's the important part.
You can send those to support.
Yeah, you can send those to support if you
They'll
want to.
They'll eventually end up on Nick or I's desk.
But anyway, on our contact page, there's now business development guidelines, and I've been getting some interesting activity on it, so I'm pretty excited about that. So.
Yeah, it's been kind of fun. It's good that we've got like a room or funnel.
A
box
to
for
put
those
that in. To
things.
put that in. I was more just I would get them from wherever, and I'd be like, I need to compartmentalize this. So I started that process, and that's been helping.
Cool.
Out,
So yeah, I mean, I'd say in the short term, like if you are someone who's going to be in the oath testing or wanting to join oath testing, we'll probably be soliciting for new testers on the Woodland Warriors within probably a couple weeks, and that Discord will be starting up soon. And then for oath, I mean for ARCs, if you pre-ordered it, you'll be getting it by the end of the month for sure. So it's moving along.
Okay, great.
Cool. I think this might be the shortest studio update we've ever done.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I will until next month.
Yep. I'll see you later. Oh!
It's the Kyle and Josh show with Kyle and Josh.
Whoa. What happened?
What? I was in my home, and all of a sudden I'm here.
Me too. I teleported from Utah.
A few days ago, I think, for both of us, we teleported.
Oh, yeah. What did we forget?
What do we?
Nothing. There. Now sound.
Okay.
Hey!
Now we have sound, apparently. Yeah, so we teleported in a few days ago.
Yep.
Kyle and Josh,
Yep.
we came to this new land from far away.
Hanging just off screen to create a table earthquake.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny, Kyle. The two of us, like, out of all, like, the people at the studio, I feel like we get to spend the least amount of time, like, together in the same room.
It's true. That's
Because-
ideal because of all the fighting we do when we're...
Yeah, Kyle has the better beard, but I don't want to admit it, so we get into scraps sometimes.
Yep. What have you been playing?
Yeah, well, good idea, Kyle. I've actually been playing Tactical Breach Wizards a lot. This is a new video game from the developers of Heat Point or Heat Signature and Gunpoints, and it is kind of a wizard. It's like XCOM but with wizards. It's a really good narrative tactical game that has some of the best writing that I've seen in games in the past like 3 or 4 years. It's the thing with video games, even like decent writing, I'm like, oh my god. Like
So good.
They finally did it, but this game has genuinely good writing. So I've been playing a lot of that. How about you?
Honestly, I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing.
Classic.
I've had kind of a resurgence recently when my kids got interested in it, and we've had to because when you're all playing on the same Nintendo, you share the same island, and so we've had to set some ground rules about things that I don't want changed on the island. Some of the paths that I've taken great care to shape,
Yeah,
and
this is Dad's place.
yeah, I'll
okay?
log back on,
Yeah.
and luckily I named it Fair in Town, so all the kids feel partial ownership. But it's been very funny. We also had to outline via notebook which villagers we cared about moving away and which ones we don't care about moving away. So if someone else is on the island and a character comes up and says, "I'm thinking about moving," the group has a consensus about which ones are allowed to go
Yeah,
and which
so
ones are allowed to stay.
You have your banishment council, basically.
Yeah,
where-
yeah. Puddles can't ever leave. Hazel can't ever leave. But there's some other ones like Egbert. You can go. Yeah. So that's mostly what I've been playing. I mostly just use it as a fishing simulator when I'm half asleep at night. So
I feel like that you're in good company with a lot of people who play that game. Yeah, so we are here to talk about a bunch of things. We're visiting the studio, which this is actually the first time ever that Kyle and I think, have been in the studio at the exact same time.
It's true. I actually haven't even been to this building before. So.
Yeah, this is your first time at the studio.
Yep.
What do you think so far? What does the studio feel like? Compare and contrast to earlier
iterations.
studios. Yeah.
So I never visited the first location that we had, where it was like milk crates and like
broken windows,
folding tables
yeah,
and stuff.
The funny thing about that studio was one time when I visited, there was a rainstorm and the windows were so bad that rain started like leaking through the glass, which was a problem because right next to all of the windows were not only computers but tons of board games, both of which are notoriously haters of water.
Yeah. But very absorbent.
Very absorbent, very absorbent. So we had to do kind of a rush in and just like, save all the games, save all the games.
Yeah. So I never visited that one. And then when they moved to the kind of office building, I was there for a little bit, just visiting when we did the art show here. And then that was with Meredith, with my wife. And then this time is the first time in the new building, and it's great. I love that you have a dedicated space to demo stuff down here. I love that, I don't know, you can have a sign out front that says corporate offices, so,
the corporate
so people
offices
know
of
not
Leader
to come
Games.
try and buy root from us while we're working.
Do not come inside to purchase root.
No, it's great. I love the windows that they go up like a restaurant.
They are very fancy. They
Yeah.
remind me of like a parapet, like windows in a medieval parapet, basically.
Yeah.
But
it's
yeah,
been great.
so it's been great hanging out. We usually only get to hang out at conventions, and we're usually just like dead tired by the second day. So
Yeah, and it's interesting to see places and people in the light of day, because I feel like that's one of the big things about PAX Unplugged. Is people will say, "Oh, you're coming to Philadelphia. What do you like about it? You should go see this." And it's like literally, it is always dark.
Yep.
Like, because it's dark when we go to the convention center. We work until it's closed, and then when we leave, it's also dark.
Right.
So it's been fun to see people out and about in the light of day, get to work together.
faces.
There's been a few times when people have walked out into the kind of shared space and been like, "Oh yeah, Kyle's here."
Instead
of on a
drawing
computer
things,
screen. Yep.
like available to talk to and harass.
Yep. It's been fun. It's been fun to be involved.
Yeah. So so the big thing for one of the big things for this trip is that we are working really hard on the new route expansion. So I'm the lead designer of the new route expansion, which you'll hear it here first. It's going to be called the Homeland Expansion.
Woo!
Homeland Expansion title.
Get hype.
So the Homeland Expansion will be the next route expansion. We will be running a Kickstarter. And that Kickstarter is going to happen on Tuesday, October 22nd.
So it's coming.
Pretty soon. We're all starting to sweat a little bit on the sides and the fronts and the backs of our bodies, just all over.
I'm mostly just doing that because I'm in Minnesota and not in Utah. I do not adjust well to humidity.
Yeah, it's
it has
been
nothing.
humid
It has
here.
nothing to do with the root and the root stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if everybody in the chat knows that you just kind of did a Meeple reveal that's live on. Well, it is available to watch. I shouldn't use the word live when we're streaming. That means a different thing.
Yeah. We did a reveal earlier this morning, but for those that did not see it, let's also take a look at these beautiful new Meeples. We've got two Meeples for you. We got the frogs and we got the bats. The bats are very stackable. I will prove it now. You can take the bats.
This is
and
important for people like me.
You can flip them over. See, they stay up on just the ears. You can stack bats on top of them.
You can also wedge them ear to ear.
You can wedge them
if
ear to
you want to
ear.
come up with a little bit more.
There's so
like
many
that.
ways. I mean, this is going to fall over here, but I
Yeah.
promise you, you can do this. You can do so many things with these bat meeples.
Yeah, one of the interesting things to do as we've continued to make root content is finding colors that are still available.
Yeah.
We got to get creative when we did the Badger Meeples because we just made them a different finish, made them silver.
Yep,
And
yeah.
like you can't get them confused with white or with black. And then with the bats, I didn't want to go black with bats, but there are plenty of bats that are brown. But landing on a brown that wouldn't be too close to the orange that the cats are familiar with, especially with pointy ears and things to make them set apart. And then the big thing about frogs is that when you think about what a cartoon frog is shaped like, it kind of goes up and it goes like this and it has 2 eye bumps. So if you can think of a green meeple that has 2 bumps right here, the problem with that is that you need to pick a very different green and make the shape a little bit different. Otherwise, they're just going to look like mutant malnourished.
Yeah, mutant mice.
Yeah, with an
mice that
alliance.
have been exposed to.
And I didn't want to step on the toast mice in their territory. So yeah, I'm really happy with how the meeples are looking, and they look. I will say, like, they look really good on the board too. When you have them on the, none of the boards are this color, so it's fun to see how they fit in with the other factions and things. Even on our demo copies, where the colors are wildly different. I drew faces on all of them yesterday, and they just need the faces. So
Yeah.
it's been a cool thing to get to work on.
Yeah, so now we have a custom Kyle double-sided face set in the studio with very just adorable little guys.
Yeah, so here we'll put a.
We'll compare the frog and the mice.
Yeah, so there's no mixing them up.
Yep. You'll never do it.
Yeah.
They look similar, like different emotions, but similarly kind of a little bit concerned about what's going on right now.
Yeah, I wanted the frogs to look like they'd just been pinched a little bit.
Yeah, just their little cheekies just squeezed out a little bit.
And who knows what cheeks. So what was I going to say about the frogs and bats? Oh, there have been bats. Bat art in Root from when I did the art for the Root role-playing game. There have been bats around already, so it was fun to kind of establish that further, and even a couple frogs. But I think people are going to be super happy with this because the frogs actually it's comprised of frogs and toads.
Frogs and toads, the whole.
So it kind of had to fit that category generally.
Yeah, the technical category of hoppy reptiles.
Yeah. Leapy guys.
Leapy guys, little leapy friends.
Yep.
So frogs and bats. These are the creatures for the 2 factions in the Homeland Expansion.
Does anyone want to grab a lizard meeple?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get all the reptiles in here.
Let's grab all of them.
Matt just booked it out of it. Matt is on it, getting this reptile party started.
I think if you play Root especially, it's hard to imagine how many things we've done at this point, meeple-wise, but there are a lot.
Yeah,
there are a great many.
At some point, we'll run out of colors, but...
Well, you have to think of colors that work, and you have to think of colors that look good together.
Yeah.
Too. So, yeah, put a lizard in there.
We'll get the party.
There's a lizard, there's a cat, there's a bat. Yeah, let's get a crow in here. Matt, don't punch it. So one of the, well, I guess we could just go straight from there to talking about the player boards and things if you wanted to talk about frogs and toads and things.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you want to talk about with that? Or what do people want to talk about when it comes to the Root stuff that's coming down the pipe?
We've actually got a good question here about color blindness. Do you want to talk a little bit about color choices for color blindness?
So I do not have any color blindness, but it is very important to me to try and get that right. I think Cole might be a tiny bit red-green colorblind, but there are, one of the main things that we're able to do with meeples like this is to make sure that the shapes are different too. So you're always having a color as sort of like the baseline. Oh, most people can tell these 2 things apart. But then the shapes and the faces printed on them even, all of that good secondary information is for people who can't tell those colors apart too. One of the things when, like the Lord of the Hundreds, Warlord meeple, I won't make you get any more meeples, Matt. But the Lord of the Hundreds was red. And red and green are the two opposites, so you have a mouse meeple and a rat meeple, trying to make them look different. And that's the reason that those rats are in profile, is so you can just see one bump from the side. That way, from front or back, that you could see which one is which. So
Yep. You've got the one bump versus the double.
yeah, I do have an app on my phone that kind of gives me not a perfect rendition, but it gives me kind of an idea of the three main kinds of color blindness and what a person might see or what colors would be confused easily. And I used it a ton. Well, I use it a ton for meeple designs, but I also use it a ton for like Oath, when we were trying to come up with like 6 suits of cards and 6 player colors and things like that, because you have to be able to not only tell them apart by shape, but also red-green color blindness and the other kinds of color blindness too. And it's not the same across the board. Sometimes cool colors will interact differently with warm colors, and so you have to. That's why all of the suits in Oath are double coated. They have one main color and one secondary color, and that's because even if you have 2 main colors that are similar, the secondary color I had to make sure was different across all kinds of color blindness.
And then you have to think about in the game in its full context, thinking about the colors all layering on each other. So, you have the board, and then you have the other color space for like pieces on the board. And then, so I know on ARCs, you had talked a lot about, you and Cole talked a lot about color spaces for like the different parts of the design. And so, yeah, it's all very interesting thinking about how all of these different color spaces interact.
Well, and at the end of the day, I want to make it look good too. I want to think that it looks good. I mean, the easiest thing to do is just to make everything orange and blue, because orange and blue don't overlap with each other with any kind of color blindness. That's why things like Rocket League are all orange and blue, because they're colors that on a screen or on pigment that are all always going to look different. But if you make a game all orange and blue,
it's a little
it
weird.
won't be the cutest, unless you're making Denver Broncos the game or something like that. But so that's why the colors. So
Very cool.
somebody asked, I think, if they have names yet, if the new factions.
Yes, and that is a great segue. Thank you, person on the internet, for helping us to segue into the factions themselves. So I'm going to pull over the new faction boards. So I will start with, I guess I'll just show you some of the art first. We've got, some people have seen this art before, but we have the lily pad Diaspora, and we have the Twilight Council. These are the 2 new factions. These are the working boards. There's still a lot of development time to go, as we haven't even begun the Kickstarter. But I'll give you just kind of a very basic breakdown of the way these factions work. You sickos out there who, will take screenshots and everything, you can analyze everything for yourselves. But, after the fact, I'm not going to go through everything piece by piece. But the basic idea behind the Lilypad Diaspora is that they are trying to reintegrate into the woodland. So essentially, they are going to have a set of tokens, and Matt, please rush to get tokens if you could. Basically, they're going to have a set of frog tokens that they're going to get to place across the map. This is actually going to add an entirely new suit of card to the game, and a new suit to the map. So essentially, as they play, they are changing the composition of the map, adding suits to it, and even replacing suits as they play. So we have some. Thank you, Matt. We have some. If we could get side camera, I'll show these, the very cute frog art that will be a little bit hard to see, but there we go.
This is final production. They'll
They'll
be freight edge cardstock glued to other components in the final game.
This is completely final. So we've got happy frogs, we've got sad frogs. So essentially, over the course of the game, they're going to be adding these frog tokens to the map. Well, when they're peaceful, When they're peaceful, they are basically adding suits to clearings. And when they're angry, they will eventually replace those suits. So over the course of the game, they're going to be changing the way that the map looks and map works.
Frog clearings.
Yep.
What won't they think up next? So if they're if they're frog clearings, are there frog cards?
Yep, there are indeed frog cards.
We didn't even script that. Can you tell by the way I stumbled over the word frog?
This
for
is
10
all.
minutes?
This is all live. This is live theater that we're doing here. So, here's an example of some of the cards in the frog deck that we're working on right now. So the basic idea is you've got this new suit of cards that is going to, get more valuable for all the players as the game goes on, because more and more of the forest will have frogs in it, essentially. As you play through the game, you will basically get access to these cards. Players can basically negotiate with the frogs to get these cards into their hand. As frogs become more militant, basically people can flip them back over to their peaceful sides by giving the frogs a card. If they do that, they're basically going to get a nice shiny frog card. Some examples of what these frog cards do: they let you get access to the frog tokens as your own crafting pieces. They let you peacefully remove frogs from the map, kind of, I've been negotiating with you and now maybe you should wind down your military. Or even frog ambushes and dominance cards. So there are tons of different ways that these frog cards are going to interact with the game. They work in all of the normal ways as cards do. The Eerie can slot them into their decrees. The Marquise can use them to overwork. Everything in the game is all going to work with these frog cards. The only thing that I'm considering right now is how the Lizard's Lost Souls interacts with them, but they are, cards for all intents and purposes. You can use them in all of the ways that the factions use them. So primarily, the Lilypad Diaspora is trying to get these frog tokens onto the map, and then they are trying to balance their peaceful and militant sides of their factions. So basically, they're going to be scoring points for the amount of frog tokens that they have in specific types of clearings, specifically peaceful ones. But if they have more militant tokens than they have peaceful ones, then they're not scoring any points. So basically, because they're trying to reintegrate into the woodland peacefully, that means that if they're too militant, then the woodland is going to reject them. So that's kind of the idea behind the Lilypad Diaspora.
Diaspora quickly overtaking Eerie for most mispronounced word in all of Root.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah.
I have
Maybe
to
even
check myself every time and be like, Diaspora.
Yeah. So yeah, with this faction, I really wanted to focus on this idea about home. The title of the expansion is the Homeland Expansion. So the Diaspora is trying to, make the woodland their home again. Trying to, they've been driven out and scattered. Some did remain in the woodland, and others were scattered across other parts of the larger Root universe. And now they're trying to return and reintegrate in a way that is good for them and good for the other creatures of the woodland. Of course, reintegrating during a civil war is pretty hard and probably bad timing, but they're trying to do it.
You don't always get to choose the time.
You don't get to choose the timing sometimes, so. The second faction, which also very much has to do with thinking about the woodland as a homeland, is the Twilight Council. So the Twilight Council, the bats, yep, we got our bat here. The Twilight Council is basically a law assembly. So the idea here is there are a number of medieval assemblies in Iceland, various Nordic and Germanic countries. There are lots of examples of these medieval assemblies, and this is kind of keying off of that. This law assembly is basically trying to cool down this war, trying to mediate the violence and sort of cool things down a notch, as it were. So the way that this works is they're basically going to be placing these assemblies across the map over the course of the game. These assemblies have a pretty big effect on the way that the game works because they strongly disincentivize people from battling at them. Whenever somebody battles at them, they're basically going to have to discard a bunch of cards. They're going to be discarding cards of that clearing suit. So it really strongly disincentivizes battling. And that's not just battling the Twilight Council, that's just any battles. So they shift the woodland a bit away from battling. And it's in its place, we have a new sort of interaction that's available to everybody in the game called assembling. And assembling is basically another way that you can roll dice to take other people's stuff off the table. So this is more of a non-violent method for interacting with other players.
It doesn't always feel nonviolent.
It doesn't feel nonviolent, but thematically this is people at least yelling at each other rather than literally stabbing each other. So the basic idea here is that the Twilight Council is trying to get these assemblies onto the board and then assemble at them. Assembling basically has three parts. You choose who you want to assemble with, just like in a battle. And then basically that person, whoever the defender is, they're going to get a chance immediately to concede. So an assembly starts. Whoever is being assembled with, they'll basically get an opportunity to say, hey, it's fine, I'll take the loss here, I get that you're probably going to win this, that's fine. What that means is they're going to remove all of their warriors from that clearing. Both the player who started the assembly and that player will get to draw a card, and then you stop the assembly immediately. So basically, if the person being assembled with sees that their future is grim for this assembly, they can basically bow out, say, you got it, and the assembly ends with each player getting a card. However, if that player does not back down, you go into the assembly. The way this assembly works, thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome.
Can we get top camera again, please?
No is the
No,
answer.
there you go. So basically, the way that works is when you assemble, you're going to be rolling the battle dice, just like in a battle. The player who started the assembly is going to get an opportunity to re-roll these dice. In order to do so, they just have to play a card that matches the clearing. So if you're assembling in a mouse clearing, you would just play out a mouse card. They can re-roll either one or both of these dice. So like, okay, I play out a card, I'm gonna re-roll the dice. Then the defender in the assembly is going to get the chance to do the same thing, with one very important exception. Whatever card they play has to have more crafting icons on it, or equal to or more, has to have at least as many crafting icons as the attacker's card. So, for example, if the attacker played a card with 2 symbols, the defender, in order to beat that, would have to play 3. If the attacker played no cards, or played like an ambush card or something like that, the defender could play any cards. So basically, we are keying the power, we are reinterpreting these crafting icons in a new context. So there are basically new reasons to hold on to these powerful crafting cards.
It can, or at least right now, it can be any suit.
Yeah, so the only thing that you are counting is the number. You don't actually care about the suits of the crafting icons. There were earlier versions of this faction that did look at those suits, and it was just too complicated to keep track of.
Too restrictive.
Yeah, too restrictive. Too many issues with that.
Can you have an assembly in a frog clearing?
You can.
You absolutely can.
Yes.
It would be silly to not be able to.
Yep, exactly.
Put it together.
Yeah, and so when even a frog clearing that is only frog, if you've got a mad frog, That means that if you have frog cards, those frogs are extremely, extremely valuable in that clearing.
Yeah.
The other important things about assembling, the first thing is that it ignores the number of warriors that are there for hits. So like normally in Root, if I rolled a 3, but I only have, 1 warrior there, it's only going to deal 1 hit. For assemblies, you don't care about warrior counts. You're not actually hitting each other with swords. You are just trying to argue your point and get your point across and try to get people to demobilize. So this is a pretty, this means that factions with only small warrior presence in a clearing, if they have a strong hand for it, they can assemble very, very effectively in a clearing.
Yeah, and it's cool because the bats don't really have battle capability, but if you just have an assembly in a clearing, you can still win a fight.
Exactly.
Win a fight.
Yep.
By doing an assembly that makes you get rid of the other guy's pieces off the board.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so it's a cool thing where you're not moving a lot, you're not battling a lot, but this assembly mechanism is how you're doing kind of the damage on the board.
Exactly. Yeah, so, wanting, again, this faction really thinks about the woodland as a home. This is the woodland creatures really leveraging their political might, trying to get this war to end in a more nonviolent way. And the factions are going to be able to, use that process for their own ends, basically. It is not only can the council assemble, but all of the players can assemble. So everybody will get an opportunity if they are at, if they are at assemblies, they can also assemble, even with third parties. If the frogs want to assemble with the cats, if they're at an assembly, they can do that. And the way that works is basically, if you would ever battle, so if you're another faction, if you would ever battle, you can just assemble instead. So it flows very naturally with the normal, the normal order of factions, the normal way that they work, and it's just a simple replacement, essentially. The expansion has been, I've been sort of in a design hole for a long time thinking about these factions, doing a lot of internal playtesting. And essentially, wider external playtesting is starting right about now. We're doing some external playtests here in the studio, and actually later today we'll be doing another one. Over the next few weeks, the playtesting Discord also will be starting up, and we'll be bringing in people. We will be releasing these as full print and plays during the campaign as we normally do. So you will get to see how things have progressed, and see how we're doing, because there's still quite a number of months of development on these left. Quite a lot of refinement to do. So
yeah, there are a couple questions in here about how vagabonds interact with the assemblies. That's the kind of development that we're going to do.
That is one. Large. There are these questions.
Why did we make this game so complicated?
Yeah, the vagabond is always a problem child with any kind of faction interactions. By and large, it's going to look something like item exhaustion. And if all items are exhausted, then damaging, something like that. I've been tinkering with a lot of variants. That is still very much TBD, but obviously it's something that we're working on. So yes, Vagabond, the problem child interactions, still TBD. So in addition to these new factions, we can confirm today that we will have 2 new maps in this expansion. So we are including 2 maps.
2 maps?
Yep, 2 maps.
Woo!
So
one double-sided map.
One double-sided
Please.
map.
I need to sleep.
One physical map.
Yay.
2 maps in total.
Yep. Can you talk about the theming of the maps?
Absolutely, yeah. So both of the maps are they're based on pre-existing maps that have been out there in the ether for a long time.
Where did they come from?
So the first map The first map is going to be based on Patrick Leader, Patrick's Swamp Map. So the idea behind this map is basically that it is a map that can expand and contract. So we've heard a lot of people out there saying, for example, that when they play 5-player games, the maps that currently exist are not the best for that kind of play experience. It gets just like a little bit too crowded, a little bit too crazy, and some people want a tiny bit more space to spread out. And so basically we're going to be, I would like to adapt the swamp map, maybe Marsh Map, like, you know, we've been talking about.
If you can
know,
tell me the difference between a swamp and a marsh without Googling it, then you'll know more than me yesterday before I Googled it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Basically, the intent behind this map is a map that you can, at the start of the game, you know, it's probably not going to go crazy and like change the map size during the game.
Here,
The
I'll
idea
put
is
this-
that
I'll
you
put
can
this up.
expand and contract this map over time. With different player counts.
I covered this up on purpose, Josh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry.
The large gnome
Yes,
man in my
don't-
sketchbook is not part of it.
Don't look at the large gnome
But
man for
someone
now.
someone said I've been drawing 2,000 trees. No, just this many willow trees so far. But that's kind of the Marsh Map vibe. There's going to be, yeah.
Nice droopy trees.
And yeah, one of the things that I think we didn't bring up about the lily pad Diaspora is that they're swimmers.
They are swimmers.
So
Yep.
they can use waterways similar to how the otters do. And so factoring that into the maps is a consideration.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this map, you know, mechanically we want something that players can change the size of at the start of the game to get a kind of looser or tighter feel. Many questions TBD on certain faction interactions for factions that really care about those higher clearing counts. We are figuring out how to make it work 100% with products that we've already released, like the resin clearing markers. You know, we don't want to, say, have a map that is larger, but then also you're like, I don't have enough resin clearing markers for this larger map. What do I do? So we are thinking about all of those issues. But that is kind of the intent of this map, is that you can expand and contract it based on your preferences.
This is me flipping over the imaginary map so we can talk about the other side.
And the other map. Yeah, so the other map is going to be based on the Gorge Map from Sam Smith, Lord of the Boards, our very own golden boy. So yeah, we've been really impressed by this map. It sort of feels like Sam set out to make a map that felt like it was very much in our style. And he accomplished it. I really like this map a lot. I think it has a lot of promise. So we're going to be developing this. Obviously, Kyle, even though it looks done,
Yes, I'm gonna draw.
Kyle's gonna draw it.
Sam.
You know, Sam may have designed it, but Kyle will give
Stay
it
in your lane, Sam.
the nice.
You do the Meeple rankings that hurt my feelings, and then I'll do the.
And then you know, we did another. I'm sorry to say, Kyle, we did
I
another
know.
Meeple rank.
I haven't
so-
even watched it.
Yeah, don't watch it unless you want.
I've been burned before.
Yeah,
No, I probably will. And then
Yeah,
I'll-
don't be too sad with me,
I have to be
Kyle.
in a better emotional place.
Sam forced me to rank them in number order. I couldn't S tier all of them, so. Those are.
What does the Gorge Map look like?
Yeah,
Can
so
we just give that?
Absolutely,
for people who
yeah.
aren't familiar with
so
it.
the Gorge Map basically is there are clearings around the outside, there are clearings down in the center of the gorge, and then there are bridges spanning the gorge. And so there are a lot of like potentially interesting things that you can do with this. You know, this is a very good baseline, but I've been thinking about things like, well, what do different bridge configurations look like? You know, are there ways to make this map even more sort of expandable to people's interests and tastes? So like we are going to be, you know, developing this, and the final map is going to be different from the map as it stands. It's not just going to be cut and paste job with Kyle's art on it. But it is a really, really strong start. We love this map, and we're excited to include it in the Homeland expansion. Yeah. So we got our factions, we got our maps, we got an expansion.
Yeah.
And now we just have to
Give me
do
that.
it.
Give me that date one more time for the Kickstarter.
The date again for the Kickstarter is
Because he wrote it down and I did it.
yeah is Tuesday, October 22nd of this year, not next year. I'm going to be releasing a design diary each week on Tuesday leading up to the campaigns, so you'll get to learn more about everything in the box. So keep an eye out for those. I saw some questions about like big box and hirelings and stuff like that. You want to take the big box question, Kyle?
Never.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I think maybe the best approach is just to let people know that Ted from accounting came down here and told us what we were and weren't allowed to talk about before the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So just know we told you as much as probably we're allowed to say on many things, but back the Kickstarter and see if there's any more stuff. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. We ended up with a pumpkin cat on the first route. On the first route.
Who knows what we will do?
Who knows what kind of vegetable cats there will be in this one? So.
Yeah. For the hirelings, yes, there will be 100%. The Kickstarter will have a new hirelings pack. So yeah, look out for that. Yeah. I think that kind of covers it, right, Kyle? Yeah.
Yep, I'm preparing for another earthquake.
We're really excited to be here in the studio. We've still got a number of days this week to go. We're gonna, we're just really cram all the wonderful experiences in that we can.
Eat all the ice cream from every place.
Exactly. Eat all the ice cream. We've had so much ice cream so far. It's been a few days, but we've eaten just an inconsiderate amount of ice cream.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. I'm going to talk to people here. Thanks for having us on the thing.
Thanks again, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.